Morning, everybody. My name's Gareth, and my background is in urban conservation. So today I'm going to focus on ways to engage urban communities in their local wild places. So next slide, please, Ross. What is a wild place in the urban context? Though they may seem to be the antithesis of wild places as the John Muir Trust and the wider population conventionally picture them, surprisingly resilient natural heritage does coexist amongst the built environment of our urban landscapes. Cities can be challenging places for wildlife. Animals must battle with traffic, fragmented habitats, and air, noise, and light pollution. But there are some advantages. Some wild animals and plants are synanthropic. They're associated with humans, benefit from living close to us. Others adapt. For example, feral pigeons find the ledges of buildings to be a more than adequate substitute for sea cliffs, as do peregrine falcons, who also happen to find the pigeons a convenient and plentiful food source. Which of these species do you think have been spotted in our cities? It's a bit of a trick question, really. All of them have been seen at one point or other. The truth is, the rare and the special can be found in our urban landscapes, from scarce mammals like water voles and otters to adders, kingfishers, plus a huge variety of plant life. So what kind of urban wild places might we find? Cities often contain pockets of surviving historic countryside, such as ancient woodland, as seen here in Epping Forest. Of course, this isn't your typical urban woodland. Secondary woodland also grows through natural colonisation of abandoned land, more often through planting. Though these lack the diversity and ecological value of the old woodlands, they nevertheless contribute to the ecological network, provide access to open spaces for city residents. The place names within a city often pay tribute to a more natural past, even when little remains. However, fragments of actual heathland do persist in cities, and a significant example can be found in Birmingham's Sutton Park, one of the largest urban parks in Europe. Like Epping Forest or many of the royal parks in London, this wild place was formerly a hunting forest, later bequeathed to the city, and then fiercely protected by its residents. The Rowley Hills are a range in the Black Country whose steep slopes have protected them from development. Summer carpets the hills in wildflowers and fills the air with butterflies, such as the locally rare marbled white. Across the city, we've lost 97% of our wildflower meadows over the last century. This is mirrored in our cities, where grassland is now dominated by regularly mown and species-poor amenity grassland, although newly created and restored grasslands are starting to make a comeback. A network of canals, rivers and streams reach through many of our urban areas, linking other habitats and often providing the best way for wildlife to enter and move around the urban landscape. For a long time, heavily polluted and largely ignored, a number of urban waterways have begun to see significant improvements over recent years. As a working river in its industrial heyday, the Wandle in South London was still biologically dead in the 1960s, but thanks to decades of regeneration and volunteer action, it's become a vibrant wildlife corridor, home to grey wagtail, water vole and brown trout. This part of the Worley and Essington Canal in Walsall is a largely undisturbed triple SI, which today has excellent water quality and hosts a nationally scarce population of floating water planting. Our recolonised canals, like other post-industrial urban sites, such as railways, quarries and gravel pits, are amongst the finest wild places in our cities today. Even brownfield sites, previously developed land that is often disregarded as wasteland, can sometimes provide short-lived but wildlife-rich habitat. The population of the black redstart, pictured here, famously boomed after the Second World War, with buildings damaged by the Blitz providing perfect nesting sites, earning it the nickname of the bomb site bird. An iconic urban species, they spread throughout London and have since established populations in other urban centres. Wetland areas of standing water, including lakes, reservoirs, pools and ponds, vary in scale and the wildlife that they support. Man-made larger water bodies can be important for waterfowl and wading birds, while smaller pools and ponds support population of uncommon wildflowers, amphibians and invertebrates. The London Wetland Centre in Barnes, pictured here, grew out of former Victorian reservoirs tucked into a loop of the Thames. While these high-profile urban nature reserves have a vital role, it's important to remember that most residents experience nature within the built environment of their gardens, allotments, parks, and other public open spaces like cemeteries. Not only do these places allow many species to move through the city, there are groups of species that specialise in making them their permanent home. Cities, fundamentally, are where most of us live, 81.5% of the UK population and growing. In some ways, this growth is the flip side of rural depopulation that we see in other areas of our work. Natural England's survey of engagement with the natural environment found that most people's experience of nature is close to home in green spaces in towns and cities. It also found that spending time in nature is good for your well-being. However, engagement is unequal. Low-income, ethnic minority and older age groups are less likely to frequently visit. Children's experience with nature is also varied, with almost 25% spending time outside less than once a month. The Trust wants more people to enjoy the benefit of wild places. And to do this, we have to diversify our audiences. We can't just wait for underrepresented groups to come and find us. We have to be proactive and go and meet them where they are, which includes urban centres. So what approaches might work? Well, engagement starts young, but when nurtured, it will inspire people to realise a lifetime of caring and taking action for wild places. However, it's harder than ever today to have a natural childhood. This generation are more disconnected from nature than any other in history. Education is one route. Primary schools are still keen to get hands-on experience in the local wild places and expand their outdoor learning. There are also more possibilities emerging for secondary schools with the development of a natural history GCSE. Who will look after our wild places in the future? And how will they acquire the skills to do so? The environmental sector is the second least diverse sector of employment in the UK. Investing in training programs that are accessible for people from a wider range of backgrounds will help forge pathways into employment and ensure the next generation of environmentalists are more representative of our diverse communities. City dwellers are younger, 6 years on average, than in rural communities. There is a huge tide of energy and passion for environmental issues amongst young people in our cities. Working together to amplify their voices and channel this energy, the Trust can support the emergence of the next generation of advocates and defenders of our wild places. There are so many ways to help nature recover in the urban landscape, from citizen science to volunteer action. And this participation is equally good for our health and well-being as it is for nature. Urban nature is on the doorstep of millions of people and provides a wonderful gateway into our shared wild places. Thank you.